Hello and welcome to Spinster's Library. I'm Claudia and today I want to talk about the 3 methods I use to track my reading without collecting more and more books. First of all though, why am I not collecting books anymore? I used to have every book I ever read on my bookshelf. I never borrowed any books, I never read any ebooks, I never got books from the library or got rid of any books. I needed to own every single book that I read, and then I had my bookshelf as a kind of physical reminder of all of my reading. And then I moved to the UK and I'm planning to move back to Germany again in a few years, so I'm trying to reduce the amount of books that I own. I also only have one bookshelf here and it is getting full. If you want to see more of my attempt at reducing books, my reasons behind it and how I'm going about it, then click on the link up here, which leads you to my Curated Bookshelf project playlist. So after I decided to no longer collect books and I started to unhaul and reduce the amount of books that I had, I needed to find new ways of tracking my reading because, well, I like to know how much I read. I'm sure that's not an unusual thing among readers. So I found 3 methods that work for me. My first method is my bookshelf in my bullet journal. This is a very basic method for tracking reading. I can't remember where I saw it on the internet. I'll see if I can find the original creator of this idea and link in the description box. It's definitely not something I came up with. I saw that online somewhere and thought that's a really nice way of having a visual overview of the books that I've read. I'm not very artsy at all, and most of my journal isn't very artsy. It's kind of, well, it's a bit ugly, let's be honest, but I like having this very simple way of having a pretty page with all of the books that I've read, and it gives me a nice sense of achievement when I get to colour a book in after I've read it. I've used this method in my journal for about 2 years now, I think, and I really enjoy doing it. Highly recommend it. The second method for tracking my reading is Goodreads. I'm sure you're all familiar with it, but in case you're not, Goodreads is a sort of social media network for readers, where you can keep track of what you read and you can see what your friends are reading. You can also see what strangers have to say about certain books. I love Goodreads because I can track my reading goal for the year. So for example, this year I'm planning to read 60 books and I can see exactly where I'm at with that goal. I also use Goodreads to rate the books that I've read on a scale of 1 to 5 stars, and then I can kind of look back and see what kind of a reading month I've had, for example. How have I rated the books that I've read? I use the currently reading function a lot because I tend to read several books at the same time, and that way I don't forget about any books that I'm supposed to be reading and I keep them all up to date. I also like looking through the timeline where I can see what my friends are reading and I get lots of recommendations that way. By the way, feel free to add me as a friend. The link to my Goodreads is down below and I pretty much accept all friend requests. Another really fun function that I like using in Goodreads is the compare books function, where you can just click on any other user profile and compare the books they've read to the books you've read, and then Goodreads gives you an estimate of how close your reading tastes are. I think that's just a fun little thing. Goodreads has got a lot of functions and a lot of different aspects to it, some of which I don't use. For example, the forums and community pages, I don't tend to use those. But it's a really fantastic website. It's got an app as well that you can download on iPhone and Android phones, which I use as well. Oh, and there's also the scan books function, which I like to use when I'm hunting for books in charity shops. So you can, on your phone, you can scan the cover of a book and then it takes you straight to the Goodreads page for that book, where you can see the average rating, where you can see what your friends and the people you follow have rated it, and where you can read reviews. But Goodreads isn't quite enough for me, so I also have an Excel spreadsheet where I track my books. This is the spreadsheet that's created by Portal in the Pages, and it is amazingly detailed. It gives me more detailed statistics about books and their authors. For example, it tells me how many pages I've read this month, how many pages I read in a day on average, what type of book I read more than any other, for example, audiobooks, ebooks, paperbacks. I can put in where I got those books from, how much money I spend on books, what genre the books are that I tend to read, what nationalities and genders the authors are. It's got so many different aspects that you can just kind of put into the spreadsheet, and then it creates these really wonderfully detailed statistics about your reading. I will link the video down below on Portal in the Pages where the spreadsheet is explained and where you can also download it. I highly recommend using that. It's such a cool way of seeing what you're reading. The functions I don't use in that spreadsheet are the spending tracker, although I tried doing that to begin with and then I got lazy about it and forgot to write down how much money I spend on the books, so I couldn't put it into the spreadsheet anymore. And I also don't use the TBR function because my TBR is a bit chaotic because it's made up of ebooks, physical books, books that I borrowed from library and friends, so it's a little bit chaotic for me to keep up with that. But frankly, my TBR, which you can see behind me, is not much of an issue at the moment, so as long as I read more books than I buy, it should be fine. So this was how I track my reading without hoarding books. Let me know how you do it. Do you just have every book you read on your bookshelf? Oh, I really wish I could do that. I know one day I will. I know one day I'll have a big library with a big book collection, but unfortunately, life won't allow me to do that right now. So I like my two digital methods of tracking books, Goodreads, which is a little bit more social, a little bit more community-based, and the spreadsheet, which is just very nerdy and detailed. And I also like my journal page where I just get to colour in the books that I've read. Let me know how you do it. I'd be really interested in that. Thank you for watching. Bye.